I want to tell you all a really sad tale right now. It's about a CEO of Embracer, a pretty big company. They've bought a few things recently. They're also the parent company of Volition, which made the latest Saints Row. He's disappointed by the polarization of the Saints Row remake. By the way, this article from VGC, link below in the description section. Lars suggests it's too early to make any calls on the future of the franchise. Embracer Group CEO Lars says he's disappointed personally by the reception of the recently released Saints Row, developed by Volition, published by Deep Silver, both of which Embracer own. Fifth Saints Row installment is a series of Reboot released last month for Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and Google Stadia. VGC Saints Row review. If you want to check it out, it's linked here in this article, FYI. Speaking during Embracer's AGM on Wednesday, Winger claimed that the game is very polarizing while it's still early in the title's life cycle. What life cycle? It's dead, Jim. It had a few days on socials, and then it went and died. Wingefors says he remains confident that his pre-release forecast that the title will see a return to its investment. You'll be lucky to break even, buddy. But the long-term prospects of the franchise are currently unclear. Unless you reboot this franchise, the franchise is pretty much dead, thanks to Volition. Quote unquote, personally, I had hoped for a greater reception to the game. Well, if you want a greater reception, Lars, CEO of Embracer, maybe you would have looked at what Volition was doing when they made this game and went downstairs from your ivory tower at Embracer down to Volition, down in the cave or wherever they made this thing, and look over the script, compare it with previous Saints Rows, and maybe see that there is some things about the new Saints Row game that Saints Row fans really weren't going to care for. And the fact that you rushed this game out the door, it needed at least one, maybe 2 more years in the oven just to fix all the bugs, glitches, and issues that it currently has. Plus, fast overhauls and improvements are also needed, especially with the side questing. And forget about the damn story and the characters. There's no hope for that. It's been very polarizing, to say the least. There's been a lot of things that could be said in detail around it, like it's crap, it's shit. It's not worth $60. Wait for a sale, and for most of the bugs to be fixed in future title updates and patches. Maybe then don't even bother buying it unless it's like a bargain bin. But I'm, with one hand, happy to see a lot of gamers and fans happy. A lot, like, 12, 13 fans out of the thousands of fans that don't really care for this piece of shit. I'm a bit sad to also see fans not happy. It's difficult. Okay, a lot of gamers are not happy with this game. Only a very small percentage of the gamers out there actually liked Saints Row. Some of them are kind of in the middle. There are things about it they like. There's things about it they didn't like. Very few absolutely loved this abomination. The majority of us thought it was a big pile of trash and are never going to play it again after we're done playing it. And I didn't even finish it, by the way. I think we need to wait for the quarterly report in November to have more details around it. Yeah, I would love to see the quarterly report around the Saints Row Reboot to see how terrible it did sales-wise. We're still fairly early in our release window. No, you're not. That was weeks ago. That's the way the world is now, Lars, is when you release a game and it doesn't do so well, guess what? The game's not going to have a magic boost of sales weeks or months later because it's all about first impressions. This game had a terrible first impression. Therefore, less people are going to purchase this down the road unless there's a deep discount and most of the issues, bugs, glitches, and crashes are resolved. Still collecting data. Well, I got data for you. The game sucks so bad. I only streamed it for 4 hours, and then I never bothered streaming it again. My fiance, Riley Blackfox, by the way, feel free and check out her channel. She streamed through it, and it was a pain for her. She only went through it in order to finish what she started, and she regretted that game from start to finish, with a few exceptions. Another friend of ours, a professional, he played through it, and let's just say he had a lot of cringe throughout his playthrough of Saints Row. He even did the secret ending, and I could tell how dead he was feeling once he got to that point. Totally not worth playing this game. Especially if you're trying to 100% it and get the so-called karaoke Love Shack secret ending. Oh, I spoiled it. Oh, whoop-de-doo. There's also bug fixing. Yeah, no shit. There's a lot of bug fixing that's needed for this so-called game, and more content coming soon. What's the content going to be? More mochachinos, more karaokes, more low-res pets that you can own? Maybe we'll be able to actually play that stupid children's board game. Why not something like Monopoly instead? At least if you're building a criminal empire and you were sitting around playing a board game, I would be playing Risk or Monopoly or something a little bit more adultish than freaking farm animals. On the financial side, I know, or I'm confident that we make money on the investment. What did you invest in this? Like $300 or something? Would have been a great return on an investment if we had seen many other games. Not very likely, but we will make money, and it's still a very good starting point at least. Like, what money? You must have not put much into the development of this game in order to somehow end up making money back, let alone break even. Especially since a lot of other content creators, like my good friend Carrick over at ACG and other YouTube channels that do great reviews, the majority of them gave this reboot terrible reviews, including Angry Joe, who most recently came out with his angry review of Saints Row, and none of them had anything really nice to say about the game. Maybe one or two things to say about it, and they were just drawing for anything at all out of desperation to put something in the pros section when it came to Saints Row in name only. Lars was then asked if the reception of the game has changed Embracer's long-term view of the franchise in any way. Obviously, you always want every installment of any IP to be greater than the last one. Well, you fell miserably when it came to this one, Lars, because even Saints Row 4 was more enjoyable than this hot mess. Yeah, and I'm personally not the biggest fan of Saints Row 4 because it was basically like an expansion from Saints Row the Third turned into its own game for financial reasons for THQ. They used Stillport again, basically the same map, the same game, but they gave you superpowers, but at least the superpowers were kind of cool in Saints Row 4. And the characters are way better. Pierce, Kinsey, they brought back Johnny Gat, they had Shondi, they had Keith David, a few others as well. Way better characters to interact with than Kevin, Eli, or Nira. And what you do is, this is quite the process to evaluate your position outcome. And there are hundreds of people engaged in this game. Yeah, there might be hundreds of people worldwide still playing this game right now, Lars. That's out of the few thousand people that actually got duped, including myself, into buying your game. So I still have great trust in those people, and I'm sure they will recommend things for the future. Oh, there's been recommendations, Lars. Go and watch a few review videos, a few critiques, my rant video for one thing, just to name a few other channels and videos out there. And if you are serious about recommendations, first off, fire whoever the hell came up with this script and the story, and the characters revolved around this so-called Saints Row game, and bring in some people that actually understand the Saints Row franchise and will take it back to its roots. You're much better off doing faithful remasters of Saints Row 1 and 2 than even trying to come up with a so-called sequel to this game. Lars, I don't mean any disrespect to you. I'm sure you're a good guy, hopefully. But the majority of gamers are not happy with Saints Row, including myself, and I absolutely loved playing Saints Row the Third. Saints Row 4, I've talked about that a moment ago. I'm not a hardcore Saints Row fan. I never actually fully played through Saints 1 or 2, but a lot of people absolutely love those two games. And when you are going to reboot the franchise, which I completely understand, especially where Saints Row 4 left the franchise as a whole, you had to reboot it. You had no choice. But you should have went back to Saints Row 1 and 2 and look at those games as the example as to what the Saints Row fans and the Saints Row franchise is supposed to be all about. The reboot was horrible in almost every single way. First off, story sucked. Characters sucked. The world sucked. The missions, for the most part, sucked and were repetitive. There's obviously bugs and glitches. The list goes on and on. Like I mentioned, Angry Joe did a review. Carrick over at ACG did a review. Quite a lot of other very reputable YouTubers did reviews on this, and the majority of them didn't exactly give it a great review. They were kind of a down, like low score, don't buy, never buy, wait for a deep, deep sell type of reviews. I would have reviewed it, but I never bothered finishing the damn game. Like I said, I streamed like 4 hours, and I've recorded some B-roll here and there, but my opinion of this game has not changed. After my fiance played it, my opinion hadn't changed. After the professional finished playing it, once again, my opinion hasn't changed about Saints Row. It sucked. If you're serious about saving the Saints Row franchise, go back to the drawing board, start over, clear house at Volition, and bring in people that actually understand the Saints Row franchise. What's really disappointing with the GTA 6 leaks that happened over the past week, even though it's an early alpha, you see the potential for GTA 6 to be amazing, especially with everything we're learning about it over the past few days from other channels. It's going to be an amazing game, and I'm a lot more excited for GTA 6, even in early alpha, than the so-called final product for Saints Row Reboot, Saints Row 2022, Saints Row in name only. Despite my criticisms of Rockstar Games over the years when it comes to neglecting Red Dead Online and even issues in GTA Online and very few IPs that they have been working on, I gotta say, when that game finally comes out in 2 or 3 years from now, GTA 6 is going to take it to the next level. In other words, Volition and Embracer, Lars, you had an opportunity in this 2 or 3 year window to put out a very solid reboot, and you failed miserably. Even with the better story, better characters, more to do in the world of Saints Row, improving the replayability of Saints Row, as well as the side quests, including the lousy-ass heists. Like, what the hell are those heists? I was watching Professional play those heists the other day, and I'm just sitting there going, like, how can a 13-year-old game, i.e. GTA 5, have way better heists 9 years on than a brand new game? It's embarrassing, Volition. It's ridiculous, Lars, CEO, head of Embracer, to allow this piece of trash game, this reboot, Saints Row in name only, to even see the light of day. For the record, I sincerely hope you try again somewhere down the road, but do not go down this path because it will lead to further failures. I guess the lesson here is to stay true to the theme of the franchise, the world that was built previously, the characters, and don't completely wash them away or toss them aside, because at the end of the day, all you're giving us is a game that happens to have the name Saints Row. Nothing more and a whole lot less. Your thoughts, views, and opinions regarding the state of Saints Row, the reboot. Did you play it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Most of you probably hated it, right? Or at least watched other streamers and other reviewers play it. For the record, I don't blame any of you if you didn't bother buying it or playing it yourself. Good for you. You saved yourself $60. As always, your thoughts, views, and opinions, welcome below in the comments section.